Hello, my name is Phil Easter, historian and writer from Baltimore, Maryland, also known as the Amazing Memory Man. We're recording on Sunday, June 25th, 2023. This is story number 30 on my YouTube channel, which is Phil Easter, the Amazing Memory Man. I'm joined today by my friends Julia Craddock, welcome, and Bob Shade. Welcome, Bob.
Thanks.
And we're going to share a few memories from some of our experiences on certain holidays and vacation trips. I'd also like to mention today, June 25th, being 6 months opposite December 25th, just for fun, I call this semi-Christmas. So happy semi-Christmas to everybody. Halfway to the next Christmas day. Julia, would you tell us some of your memories of certain holidays you've had?
Shoot, I don't have anything prepared, sorry.
Well, maybe like a 4th of July or Thanksgiving or Christmas that you had with people sometime.
I've spent most of my holidays with my family.
In Severna Park, Maryland?
In Severna Park, Maryland. I think, let's see, every 4th of July there was a town parade. And I don't know, sorry, I don't remember my stuff like you do.
Well, that's okay. I'm sure you had some very nice experiences growing up in Severna Park.
Oh, yeah.
I would imagine you and your family would travel to the eastern shore of Maryland sometime?
Not too much.
Eastern Shore too much. Okay.
No, sometimes for Easter holiday we would go to California where my father's family is.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Yeah, and that was always nice because he's got a huge family. I think I have like over 20 cousins.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And we'd have an Easter egg hunt, so I think those were always pretty memorable.
And what part of California?
San Jose, Silicon Valley.
All right. There was some song about San Jose back in 1960. I've
Do
never
you
been
know the
there.
way to San Jose?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. I've been to L.A., San Diego, and San Francisco, and
Oh, okay.
between 2 different trips to California.
Cool. Cool.
But like, for example, for Thanksgiving and Christmas, we're usually at home in Severna Park with your family for those 2 holidays, or did you ever go somewhere else?
No, we were always in Severna Park, Maryland, and it was usually just my mom, my dad, my sister, and then my aunt would come over as well. So pretty small.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, that's nice, though.
Yeah.
I did live 1 year in Severna Park. My freshman year in high school, I went to school down there, but I'm from Baltimore, where I've lived most of my life. But, thank you, Julia.
Sure.
Bob, tell me about some of your holiday experiences, and maybe with family or friends.
About like Christmas?
Sure. Christmas is one of my favorite myself.
We always do Christmas at my parents' house, Christmas Eve at my aunt's house. My favorite's Halloween.
Oh, Halloween's a fun holiday.
Yeah.
Not an official holiday, but still one of those fun days of the year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
But did you go trick-or-treating, I guess, when you were younger?
Yeah. One time, my dad took us out on Mischief Night. You know about Mischief Night? It's like the night before Halloween.
Okay, I thought that was called movie night. We had a term growing up that was called movie night, but you call it...
Mischief Night?
Okay.
It's where you go to egg people's houses and throw toilet paper.
Right. Yeah, people used to move things.
Yeah.
I heard in the real old days, before people had indoor plumbing too much, they would move the outhouses that all somebody's house some distance away.
Nice.
Oh, God.
That's good.
People wake up in the morning. That could be a problem.
Yeah.
Oh, God. But, okay, so you call it Mischief Night, and
Yeah.
when I was growing up, I think it was called Movie Night, but it was mischief too.
Yeah.
But I lived in downtown Baltimore. Actually, there wasn't much trick-or-treating. There weren't that many children where I grew up in the Mount Vernon Place area of Baltimore City, but there were a few times, it seemed like there was one block on Park Avenue where some people were a little more generous than other places. But one time my mom arranged for me to visit another family out in Randallstown area, Baltimore County, many years ago. I got to, I think it's the one time I ever went trick-or-treating with some children, like to see a lot of trick-or-treating, many houses, but just one time ever I got to do that. But I know it's fun and for many people. And have you ever been to Fells Point on Halloween? A popular part of Baltimore.
Yeah.
I was there once. It's something to see.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a parade of humanity.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
It's really so many people, though. It's a very popular restaurant and bar area of Baltimore, Fells Point. Many people go there for New Year's and Halloween and St. Patrick's Day, big events like that. How about Thanksgiving, though? Would you usually have just dinner with your family?
My aunt usually had Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Now I kind of go to Julia's parents' house on Thanksgiving.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah, it's cool. So, and I've been doing Christmas with Julia's family the last couple of years. They just do go to the movies, which is nice. It's a little more
you go to movies
relaxing.
and Christmas Day sometimes?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
I think I did 2 times ever in my life. It was on consecutive years, too.
Yeah.
1997 and 1998, when I was in my mid-40s. I was dating a young lady named Erica at that time, and I met her at the Hamden Family Center here in Baltimore, where I was a volunteer, and we went to see some movies in 1997. The movie Wings of the Dove, a story about English people in Italy. One of those movies, I think it was one of those Merchant Ivory productions, I'm pretty sure. They made movies like Enchanted April, I believe, and A Room with a View. I think those are among the movies they made. A lot of stories about English people going to Italy. And then the next year, 1998, Eric and I saw Shakespeare in Love on Christmas Day. And that movie ended up winning Best Picture of that year, 1998. But really, with me, it was mostly growing up with family. It was just my mom and grandmother, my immediate family. And we would often go out to Ruxton area of Baltimore County.
That's where my dad grew up.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Kitty and Homer were relatives, and they would invite maybe 10 to 12 people on the average. And some of their cousins from Washington, D.C. would come over also. And so Kitty and Homer would pick us up because we didn't have a car. Living downtown, it would be hard to have a car, and so drove us out there from downtown Baltimore. It was a nice house they had, and always had a dog there. And it was fun, a lot of times, going to Kitty and Homer's for Thanksgiving and Christmas for many of the years of the 1960s and early 70s.
Cool.
At that time. Now, I lived in the state of Massachusetts briefly in 1975-76, and my mom came up on a train to Boston, and we went out to a town called Sturbridge, a small town in western Massachusetts, and we went to an inn where they had a nice Thanksgiving dinner for the people who were staying there at the time. Sure, that was 1975, Thanksgiving that year. It was very nice. But most of the time I was in the Baltimore area for Thanksgiving and Christmas. And I like those holidays. It was nice family holidays, even though I didn't really have family anymore. But I still like those holidays very much. And 4th of July, I had many interesting Independence Day celebrations. In 1972, I was dating a girl named Susan, and we went over to Washington, D.C., went to the National Zoo, and also saw a play at Ford's Theater. And in 1974, I was living on Cape Cod that summer, and on July 4th, I took a boat from Hyannis to Nantucket Island, and just for that day, and came back to Hyannis to watch the fireworks at night. In 1975, living in Boston, I saw a great concert on the Esplanade, they call it, on the Charles River. The famous conductor Arthur Fiedler, who conducted the Boston Pops Orchestra for close to 50 years. Amazing. He was from the country of Austria originally. He came to the United States when he was pretty young, and directed the music in Boston, and the 4th of July concert was always so special. They had the 1812 Overture and canon going off at the same time, and church bells ringing at the end of that concert, and it's like the whole city was alive. It was like 150,000 people there that night. And of course, then they did the Stars and Stripes Forever at the end. It was so beautiful. And then next year, 1976, I went over to Washington, D.C., the bicentennial year, and saw a concert there. That was very memorable. And in 1978, here in Baltimore, I just went out to the Hopkins track, and I was a pretty good runner at that time, and I wanted to do a 1-hour run to see how much distance I could cover in 1 hour. And I ran a little over 8 miles in 1 hour on the Johns Hopkins University track, many laps around. And in 1979, I was on my wonderful trip to Great Britain and Ireland, a 15-week trip. And so on July 4th, I took a boat from Liverpool, England, hometown of the Beatles, to the Isle of Man. Because the next day, July 5th, was the big celebration on the Isle of Man every year. It's their special day. But that year they were celebrating 1,000 years of their parliament. And so Queen Elizabeth came over. But it was touching that on the night of July 4th, my first night on the Isle of Man, I went to a pub and heard some American songs, even that night.
Oh, cool.
So it seems like the 1970s had a number of memorable July 4ths. But also in 1980, here in Baltimore, Harbor Place opened around that time. The official opening of Harbor Place was July 2nd, and they had a big concert that night. But also on July 4th, they, of course, had fireworks down there in the Inner Harbor. So Independence Day is a special day, and this year will be 247 years since the Declaration of Independence was signed. So 3 years from now, in 2026, will be the 250th anniversary of our country founded. That should be a very special July 4th.
Yeah.
Indeed. Looking forward to that. So holidays, always nice, especially if you have family and friends to share with. We are now joined by my friends Aaron Campbell and Dan Ashburn. Welcome to Phil Easter's Porch Party. We have 2 more nice friends joining us now. And Aaron, would you please tell us a little bit about some of the travels you've had in the past?
Yeah, some of my favorite trips were with my family. The 2 times I've been to Europe, one, I went to Norway. I don't even remember what year it was, at least 15 years ago. And we traveled around and got to go to Oslo and see where they gave out the Nobel Peace Prize, as well as Trondheim and a few other cities in Norway, and that was the closest I'd ever been to the Arctic Circle. We didn't quite make it inside it, but we were very close. And then the other time was when my family went to Italy when I was in high school. So that was about also 10-ish years ago now. And we spent 10 days going to Rome, Florence, and Venice, which is a great trip. And that was the first time that I really got to see kind of the ancient history piece of Europe, which was amazing. And then Dan and I have done some travels, and recently I graduated finally from school, and we went on a 2-week road trip from Phoenix to Salt Lake City, where we stopped at 6 different national parks along the way. And so that was also a really wonderful trip, and the most recent that I've been on.
That's great. That's wonderful to go to all those places. And when I was 7 years old, my mom took me to Europe, my first trip to Europe, and we went to France, Austria, and Italy. And the cities you mentioned, Italy, I visited those same cities, Rome, Florence, and Venice, right, when I was just 7 years old, my first trip to Europe. That's great to have that experience.
Yeah.
And I believe you do have a PhD now, don't you, Aaron?
I do, yeah. Long time coming.
That's great. That's great. And Daniel, would you tell us something about your family trips, maybe?
we didn't travel so much when I was growing up. I didn't really start traveling until I was past 18. I took a really cool trip with a group of my friends to the Allagash River in Maine. We did a 5-day canoe trip along the Allagash River. I had category 2 and 3 rapids that we had to deal with, and I got dunked in a few times. But it was an awesome trip. We had to survive on the river for a couple of days with just canned food and preserved food. It was great. But it was a lot of fun, a lot of stories from that trip. These guys would be buddies for a lifetime, so it's always cool to talk stories with them whenever we get together. That was in 2019, right after, or it was like right after the pandemic, so 2020. And then recently, was last year, Aaron and I guess at that point we'd only been dating for like 5-6 months, and we decided, yeah, we can just go across country and go to Yosemite, it'll be fine.
Oh, that's great.
So we went to Yosemite National Park and spent 3.5 days there traveling around. We hiked 18 miles. We did a round trip hike that was 18 miles that Aaron barely survived. But that place it's heaven on earth. There's tons of waterfalls. We were there when right after like the glacier melt, so the waterfalls were absolutely incredible.
It must be beautiful.
Oh
See,
yeah, it was amazing.
a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. It's special memories of trips. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, Bob and Julia, I know you both went to Ireland last year, in the summer of last year.
Yeah.
And, I know I should point out to people, we did a YouTube story last October with Bob and Julia about our Irish memories. So I was there in 1979, 44 years ago now, and Bob and Julia were just there last year. But just tell us just a little more, maybe a story that you remember from that trip that you liked very much.
Okay. Bob, do you have a story you want to share?
I don't know. We just drove a lot.
We did drive a lot.
Yeah.
We're going to try and drive around the entire country, and then realized we didn't have enough time. So we cut across from Dublin all the way to Galway Bay, and then did the southern part.
That's nice.
But the cheapest rental car was a Sprinter van, so we were just driving around these tiny little Irish roads in a big Enterprise van, and that was comical and fun.
Well, that's
Yeah.
nice. That's nice.
We crashed like 3 times.
And we crashed.
Well, but people were very friendly.
Yes,
Yeah, people were really
we hit a car, and the guy said, "No big deal,"
Is that something?
and then he helped us park.
Oh, how kind, really.
Yeah.
That's great. It's always, in the travel, the human experiences, just meeting people wherever we travel. It's not always just the big events we see. I mean, that's nice too, but it's really just nice meeting people, talking to people in each country and learning about their customs. And it's a wonderful experience, travel. I traveled to Europe 8 times altogether between the years 1960 and 1987, from about my ages of 7 to 34. And I traveled to Canada twice, in 1976 to go to Montreal for the Olympic Games, and 1984 to go to the capital city of Ottawa and also Toronto. I have many special memories of those trips. My first long trip was actually when I was 6 years old. My mom and grandmother and I took a train to California, all the way across the country. Train both ways. I was just 6 years old. And I remember just a little bit about the Grand Canyon. We saw the Grand Canyon. And in San Francisco, the cable cars and all, the steep hills. But the next year, as I said before, we went to Europe in 1960 for a 7-week trip. So I was fortunate that my mom liked travel very much, so she inspired me to become interested in travel at a young age. So later I went on a number of trips by myself, and I always had a nice time meeting people in many places. Well, I'm very happy today that my friends Bob and Julia, Aaron and Dan could join me for this porch party, we call it, here at the porch of my house in North Baltimore. Once again, on this June 25th, semi-Christmas, 6 months opposite December 25th. This is Phil Easter, the Amazing Memory Man. We'll see you next time. Another story on another subject. Thank you and good evening.